Welcome to Speak Harmony, hosted by Sharon Thompson and Dr. Sharon Reid, bringing news, ideas, and community needs. We learn, we grow, we stay informed together in harmony. Our voices are heard. Speak Harmony, where knowledge meets community.
Welcome to another edition of the Speak Harmony podcast right here in APAP Studios. And let me tell you, we are live on YouTube every single week from 7 to 8 p.m. And we just want to show our gratitude, as always, to Mr. P and Damien back there in the production room. So APAP Media, guys, it's a major production, full-service media company specializing in podcasting, multi-camera recording, video and live streaming services, and many, 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 many more. Okay, you can contact APAP Media at 470-657-1998. Again, that's 470-657-1998. Or you may email them at info@apapmedia.com. That's info@apapmedia.com. We thank you, and we just big you up, Mr. P and Damien. Thank you so much. So, what says you, Sister Sharon? What's going on today, being Tuesday? What is going on?
YouTube family, this is Dr. Sharon Reid, known as the Heart Lady. Thank you, Sharon T, Sister Connector. I'm good. It's raining outside, but you got the yellow on, bringing the sunshine in.
I love it. Yes.
Yes. So I actually love being out there in the rain too.
I love the rain.
What did you do over the weekend?
Wow. So
You did a lot, right?
what we did on Saturday. Also, we had our Atlanta Jamaican Association meeting.
Oh, that's
monthly
right.
meeting.
Yes.
And what we did was honor our heritage as usual. So we had quite a few of our island folks come in. And they were amazing.
Awesome. It was so
I don't want to say their
educational.
names. I don't want to say their names because I don't remember all
Everybody,
the islands in
right.
order.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, I know who they are, but I just don't remember all the islands that they're connected to. But let me tell you, they were fabulous in their attire, what they brought to us. I mean, education. There are things that I kind of knew, things I had no clue about.
Yeah.
So it was so educational. Enjoyed it.
I did too. Yeah.
You know, and then Sunday just chilled and watched some soccer games, and you know, now that the Knicks have taken the throne.
Oh my gosh.
Man,
yes.
big up to the Knicks. Shout out to our New York Knicks. I'm a Knickerbocker to the core.
Oh, really? I did not know that about
Are
you.
joking? I'm not one of those fair weather supporters. If they're losing, I'm on Team Knicks. If they're winning, I'm on Team Knicks.
I didn't know you was a big Knicks person.
Orange and blue all the way.
What?
Big ups. So,
All right, big up
what
New
did you
York
do?
and New York Knicks. I did some teaching, and other than that, I'm chilled. Oh, I took my children, or my son. He actually gave the a ticket to the Luciana and Marcia Griffith show, the pre-Father's Day show.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was beautiful weather, and it was outside of the amphitheater. Nice
And it
show.
was
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that was a good show.
So that's what we did that
you
Saturday.
said you just chilled, and I was like, you chilled at the show?
Yeah, I
A
forgot.
big show? How could you
Yeah.
forget the show?
I'm telling you, right?
Wow.
That's where I was rushing from after the meeting.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Everybody was rushing to get there.
So, tomorrow is Fresh Veggie Day. And so, as you know, I've decided to go ahead and give you the following days when I can so that you can prepare. But even though it's Fresh Veggie Day on the 16th, guess what? You can do it on the 17th. Every day should be Fresh Veggie Day, right? And so it encourages consuming healthy raw vegetables and also support your local farmers markets.
Yes.
The local ones, everybody has to make a living, but they have some good, tasty veggies. And then, Sharon, let me see,
fresh.
no orange, because today is no orange day.
No, there's no orange over here. No orange over here. Not even side.
Look at
favorite color. No orange.
He said, "Ooh, that is too cute." All right.
No orange.
And then on a more serious note and a wonderful note, it is International Day of the African Child.
Oh, look at how beautiful. Oh, adorable. Look at them.
It's an observance of the Organization of African Unity to honor children's rights and remember the 1976 Soweto uprising in South Africa.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
They're pretty
we
little
definitely
faces.
remember that.
Yes.
So we have a virtual guest today.
We do.
All right,
We
let's
do,
get
we do,
into
we
it.
do. And so with our virtual guest, let me tell you, she is coming to you. She is none other than Simone W. Johnson. And Simone, as it says, left Jamaica with a suitcase and a plan. What no one handed her was a map for the harder part, which is the slow work of building a life and a career across cultures without losing herself. The gap is where her work lives. Simone, in her mission, is really simple. Her mission is really simple, she says, to equip high-achieving immigrants, global professionals, first-gen citizens, and third-culture people with the tools to decode culture, embrace identity, and thrive abroad without losing themselves on their own terms. I love that. Through the Immigrant Experience in America's podcast, she's a podcaster, she's an author. She amplifies like the real stories that validate and inspire on the immigrant experience. So she has a YouTube channel, and you can catch her there, and we talk more about that later. She shares practical strategies for navigating life abroad with confidence. She has a book, Decoding America, and that serves as the roadmap for reading the cultural environment, bridging divides, and reclaiming identity. So she's also a coach. She's a speaker. She does the most. She's an award-winning author, a certified intercultural strategist and coach, and a Maxwell Leadership certified team member, and so on and so forth. And she's been doing this for over 15 years. So, her stuff, she's touched, it says, more than 15 years in international affairs and public service, including work as a U.S. diplomat in Mexico, Cuba, Sierra Leone, and Ghana. Taught her the challenges in life. Today she coaches clients through balancing cultural identities, career transitions, and the immigrant wealth code. Welcome to the Speak Harmony Show, Sister Simone W. Johnson. We appreciate you. Welcome.
Welcome.
How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. It's a pleasure to join you here on Speak Harmony. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So you left Jamaica with a suitcase and a plan. Some people leave Jamaica with a suitcase and nothing in there, But glad she did have the plan in there.
She had the plan.
So what was your biggest reality about America? Because, a lot of people said, I remember they said, oh, it's the land of milk and honey. And I look as a little girl and said, I don't see any milk or honey on the streets. So what did you think and that no one really prepared you for?
Right. So, talking about the suitcase and the plan, right? My brother and I were daydreaming about starting a restaurant, right? Because for some reason we knew that Jamaican restaurants were popular and we love Jamaican food. So we would daydream about starting a Jamaican restaurant. So that was our plan as youth leaving Jamaica, right? So, but that's funny. But my initial, idea about the United States was, get in there. I was bright-eyed, as they say, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to figure this place out, study. I love school, right? So that was my thing. Get my education done, make my family proud, and have the American dream, right? So that was top of mind. All I would think about, right? There was no boyfriend in the picture. All I was about was studying and having fun, and I'm now in America, right? So that was top of mind.
So when you said, lost in translation. What are people really losing, and what are they trying to hold on to? What's lost in translation? What does that really mean?
Right. Thanks for the question. So, when most people hear lost in translation, they think of language, a word that doesn't quite cross the border. But what I've seen in the lives of immigrants and third culture people is something much more deeper. What gets lost in the translation is not exactly the word, but the self identity. When you cross the border physically, culturally, professionally, you bring everything with you, right? Your values, your family's expectation, and don't we know that as Jamaicans, the expectation from culture, from family, from community. The version of yourself that was shaped by a particular soil, a particular faith, a particular way of understanding respect, success, time, money, and belonging. And then you arrive somewhere that runs on entirely different rules that nobody prepared you for, rules that nobody explained. And slowly, quietly, without ever making a conscious decision, you start translating yourself. You start changing the way you dress, the way you wear your hair, even the way you speak
Speak.
into something more acceptable, right? Because you want to be acceptable in the American space, something that's more safe. You start assimilating. So, what people are desperately trying to hold on to is the original, that version of yourself that you left Jamaica or wherever you're from around the world, where you felt accepted, just comfortable in your skin. The person they were before they had to start code switching in every room that we enter. The version of themselves that didn't have to choose between honoring where they come from and what's succeeding, where they're going. And the tragedy of being lost in translation is not that you lose your language, it's that you lose your voice. So many immigrants, when they walk into room, are not necessarily as comfortable as they were when they first landed. So what I do through the book, the podcast, the coaching is help people find it again. Not the old voice, not necessarily the new voice either, the integrated voice, the one that holds both worlds together. And I know this from the inside, right? I've sat in rooms as a US diplomat, as a Jamaican woman, as someone who grew up in a collectivist culture, navigating the most individualistic professional environment in the world. And I have felt the translation happening in real time, the editing. What should I wear today? The softening, the shrinking, right? And I've done the work of coming back home to myself, as the subtitle of my book says. So, what gets lost is not necessarily words, it's the voice, the self identity. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, you're so
Wow.
welcome.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And there are those of us who, honestly, we do get lost, but then there are those who never got lost, because if you speak to some of these folks, some of our people, it's as if they just
It's like they never leave.
never leave.
Oh my
Shoot, it's like they
gosh.
just got here. So what time is it? It's 7:14. It's like they got here at 7:00. Seriously, they just
Yeah.
showed up at 7. With their accent and everything.
Yeah.
And then when you talk to them, because I had a sister, rest her soul, that I worked with in New York City, and Millie would always say, I said, Millie, they don't understand anything you just said, right? She said, me not care. They might have to learn if you understand me. It's that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because she was such a proud person, proud of what she brought
The
with her.
nationality, yes.
Right? So she was like, I'm not trying to translate. You better learn to translate and understand me. Translate what I'm saying to you,
Yeah.
And so there are those, and then, the others. And I understand, because then there are others that people say, oh, your speak is spooky.
Yeah. So even people from our own culture would
Yes.
tease us.
Yes.
I remember when I came, they would bring me around, and I would remember crying, and they would say to my mother and saying, I'm so tired of them telling me to speak for you, because I went to school in England, and they would drag me around. Speak for them, Sharon. Speak for them.
Yeah, because
I'm not a parrot. Leave me alone. But it was fun at the same time. So I get that, what you were talking about, the integration and also trying to acclimate yourself to this new culture. So, there are so many struggles that immigrants go through, right? And what do you tell first generation children how they are navigating, the tension between the parents and how they are and the expectations? How do you navigate that with the work that you do?
So, are we focused more on first generation Americans or first gen immigrants in general?
Immigrants.
Because right, so I consider myself a first gen immigrant, even though my parents are immigrants, right? So all three of us would be considered first gen immigrants. However, when I hear children, I think about, for example, my child who is a first gen American, what we call in the research third culture children, TCKs, and they have quite a space to fill because at home they literally live in another country, and when they go
I
out to
like that.
school they're in America.
Right,
Right,
right.
So there's a code switch.
Yeah,
exactly. And
yeah,
so at
yeah.
any given time it's like they're just going in between two different cultures. They're trying to please mom and dad if they're both parents are immigrants, and they're trying to also battle the clash that comes between the American culture and the Jamaican culture or any other country in which you're attached, right? And
Right.
so they definitely struggle with identity or TCKs. And I really try to undergird my daughter and I tell her, you don't have to choose. If you want to say I'm American, then mommy supports you because you were born here. Embrace that. Embrace who you are. However, I need you to understand that if things change in this country and we're going through a very sensitive political time right now on so many levels, if things change, you were born here, my family came legal from day one. I did the research, so nobody can come after our papers, I know that. But the first person who landed here, and then my father waited 12 years, and then my siblings and I came with dad and family. But I need you to know that there is a place, Jamaica, and I take her back often, so she knows the culture. She's rooted there. That you have generations going back 5 or 6 generations. We have our family plot with literally the graves are there that we can show the dates and everything. I need
Wow.
you to know that at any point, if this place gets too toxic for you, you have a place that you can go to. And
Wow.
my heart goes out to those who can't trace their roots back to where their families are from, right? So I identify that as well. But for our children, they're constantly navigating, trying to hold on to the culture of a parent or both parents, and also appreciate what the American culture brings. And so for me, I consider myself a hybrid of both the Jamaican and the US because after being here now for 2 decades, and what I don't understand is for all the other Jamaicans out there who like to say you don't sound Jamaican no more, how do you live in a place for 2 decades and nothing about you change? Tell me, can you do it? For the people in Jamaica who've never left, and they sound their accent are authentic is authentic, they sound like they never left. Like, tell me, how if you were to move and live in a country for 2 decades, how do you survive that place without ever changing? There's something that is going to have to something's gonna rub off on you. Whether you start, I literally start cooking English squash because I couldn't find when I can't find cucumber or parsley. I start using parsley. I start finding things in the US culture that I have to now learn how to cook with. Because we can always find the actual time that we use and things that we use to flavor our food. So you start adapting, you start
Adapting.
integrating, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. It's not an easy thing. And the funny thing is when I go home now, I literally feel like a foreigner. I talk about this in my book. I feel like I'm a foreigner in the place where I was born because people constantly tell me you don't sound the same. I will negotiate for you. Don't talk, don't say a word. But
I like that part. Because you look like a foreigner, and I'm like, what does a foreigner
right,
really
they
look
can
like?
tell that
I'm
you've
wearing the
No,
had
they
clothes.
can
You
this.
smell
tell.
like them. You
They
smell
can
like a
tell.
foreigner.
Right. they can
Yeah.
tell that you've been away for for a little bit. And
Wow.
so the price go up how many times and so forth. So I feel like a foreigner when I go home. And the funny thing about it in the US here, there are certain groups of people who will constantly remind you, where are you from? You have an accent. And so you never quite fit in the US either. So you're in this in between world that I call, we're third culture people. We're hybrids of either two or multiple cultures. And so through my own pain and journey, I have taken on the research and everything to try and explain my own disorientation of figuring out, so what's my identity? Who am I now? A lot of Jamaicans here like to remind me, well, you don't sound Jamaican no more. You don't sound Jamaican. And then you go home and you feel like a foreigner. So you have to now identify, who am I? I've changed. There's parts of me that's really American and parts of me that's still very, very rooted in Jamaica. And so I now have to negotiate. And you do get to negotiate who you're becoming. Exactly so.
Yeah. Where did that term TCK? Because that's
Yeah, I
new
like
to me.
that. Yeah, I like
Did
that.
you
Really,
coin that? Yeah. Or is
no,
it?
I would like to think, because as I pondered, I came up with the idea that you know what, I'm a hybrid. I am not fully Jamaican anymore. Parts of me have changed. And I used to say I'm a hybrid, but then I started studying culture, Edward T. Hall and others out there in the research. And that's where I came across the actual term third culture kids and third culture people. There's quite a bit of
Interesting.
research out there, interestingly.
Wow. Tell us, so what inspired your book, though? I mean, the book that you wrote. When did you decide, you want to write this book, you want to tell it all? Tell us a little bit about that. Touch on some snippets of your book.
Thank you for the question. So this book has been inside me for a long time. I can go back to, we're in 2026. I can go back to prior to 2015, and having dreams, getting up, having so many ideas, like where I need a book. How come somebody has not written a book yet talking about the immigrant experience and what it's like adjusting to life when you're abroad? And I never came across such a book. And I thought, I need to be that person to write it because I'm having so many experiences. I remember having to literally teach myself the different levels of friendship. Like I had to over and over, when I moved away from my family and moved to the DC area, when I was at Department of State, constantly remind myself. So you have colleagues, so you have acquaintances, colleagues, friends, different levels of friendship, and then you have your inner circle. And so because we're so as collectivist people, we have a huge community, right? And so I constantly have to go through the mind frame of reminding myself, where does this person fall? Because I would find myself putting everybody in the friends group, but they don't necessarily see you as friends. And so
Absolutely.
I was going through so much disorientation, what we call cultural disorientation, cultural dissonance, where, you know, you have multiple things competing against itself in your mind, and you're adjusting, you're changing, but then you want to hold on to who you are. It's quite a dynamic that goes on after I'll say 5+ year, where you start determining, like, who am I becoming? And so I just literally in 2021, when my mom passed, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, my mom is no longer here. I'm the next generation. I have a child. If I have something to do, don't know how much time I have. I need to get it done. And literally, I started my podcast November, started iterating and coming up with ideas for the podcast in November 2021, officially launched in 2022. And throughout the podcast, I just started writing in 2023, a year later, and published 2024 around Christmas time. So I took about a year, and I'm telling you, there was so much inside of me that I had been thinking over the years. And through having the podcast interviews, we're now over 200 episodes. The conversation I was having with people
Congratulations.
just,
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So that conversation that I was having with other people about their challenges adjusting to life abroad really just brought home the need for a book like this. How do we decode this place? And then how do we now negotiate the changes that we need to make in order to survive and thrive here? So I'm big on thriving. You know, a lot of people, there's a lot of immigrants who live in the shadows.
Yeah.
And I've worked in the immigration space for about 15 plus years, right? So I've seen the behind the scenes of, I won't go into too much details, but let's just say I've seen the behind the scenes of people who do it legally and people who take the underground,
Right.
and how it basically just, you know, it damages their reputation, it damages the culture, the
Right.
nationality reputation in front of certain people, let's say the legal and behind the legal framework.
Yeah.
And so I know that there's a lot of people here who are living in the shadows. And
Right.
so it can be very painful as an immigrant living abroad, the constant need to assimilate, edit yourself, trying to, you know, who am I? And
Yeah.
so the book came out of my own pain of sharing some of my journeys and in really wanting people to come home to themselves. You don't have to fully assimilate and throw out
Yeah.
everything that you are. You get to negotiate that.
So talk about decoding. What do you think are some of the unwritten rules in American culture that immigrants often discover the hard way?
Oh my goodness, unwritten rules. I am still trying to write them down,
I
let me
think we
tell
all
you.
are too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So let me talk about, for example, what it means to be Black, right? I literally had people tell me to my face that I act like I'm white. Um, you know, you walk in a room and just because you enunciate, pronounce your words properly, or you try to present yourself well at work, people think that you're trying to take on a certain, I don't know, but it was really sad. And so it was interesting for me. I had to learn a lot of unspoken rules about how you are accepted in the workplace and how to navigate different ethnic groups and so forth. And so that was very painful for me. And I'm losing some of my thoughts here, ladies. So
That's okay.
That's
We
fine.
will.
That's
We
fine
can.
because I
Yeah.
love, we're gonna go on a break shortly
Yeah.
though, and then let me tell you, when we get back, we want to dive a little deeper because we want to get back to the book and some other stuff that we need to know more about Simone and how she navigates the space that we call decoding and this whole culture. Third culture. I love that. I love that terminology, third culture. So we're gonna take a break. But when we get back, we'll just dive a little further down, Miss Simone.
This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, APAP Media Group. APAP Media Group is a full-service creative video and photo production company specializing in podcasting, multi-camera recording, and live streaming. Contact them by email at info@apapmedia.com. That's info@apapmedia.com. Thank you to our sponsor, APAP Media Group.
Welcome back. And as usual, Hotland is always happening. It stays happening. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Right here, we've got the Caribbean Connection. And this month being Caribbean Heritage Month, when I tell you it's happening, Caribbean people, it's keeping. As they would say, it's, what's that expression? That it's happening. It's not that they say it's happening. It's going on. Something. It's escaping me right now. But the Caribbean Connection, you're invited. There's an event at Amazon ATL2, it says. This location is the Amazon building at 2255 West Park Place Boulevard in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And this is on Juneteenth. It's this coming Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. For more information, it says here, Helene Wheatley at 404-645-1088. You can contact her for further details. So that's Miss Helene Wheatley at 404-645-1088. And that's Caribbean Connection at Amazon ATL2, West Park, 2255 West Park Place.
That's just down the road here.
Right there.
From
Right.
the
Walking
studio.
distance. Yeah. And then we have our sister, Miss Naima, down there in the Hampton. Okay. She's the sassy lady, the Sassy Collection Creative Center, and she's got quite a happening down there. So she's got an open mic poetry night this coming Juneteenth. Doors open at 7:30 p.m. Showtime is at 8 to 10. And there's just a little entry fee. It's $15, guys. So that's the Sassy Creative Collection, and it's there at 4291 North Expressway in Hampton, Georgia. So you can definitely check that out if you're in and around that area. And here comes another big Caribbean event. This is always amazing every year. So it's the Diaspora Cultural Curators, and it's Georgia Caribbean Film Festival, and they show some amazing stuff. So the Caribs of St. Vincent, it's a 50-minute documentary, and it's about the homeland, St. Vincent. Okay, so come out. They have a slew of them. There's Territory Dominica. That's the name of that documentary. It's a 21-minute documentary about Dominica, not Dominican Republic, but Dominica, the island. And then there's Garifuna Journey, which is Belize. It's another documentary by Belize, 46-minute documentary. And there's Aquantu, the Journey, Jamaica, really, 87-minute documentary. And then we have the Maroons of Suriname. It's a 5-minute documentary. So, ladies and gentlemen, come out and support this. This is going to be held this coming Saturday, starting at 11 a.m. at the Metropolitan Library, and that's at 1332 Metropolitan Parkway, Southwest Atlanta. So look it up. If you forget, just look up Georgia Caribbean Film Festival. And here we go again. So right down the road, as we would say here in Georgia, the Family Gwinnett presents an annual Snellville Juneteenth celebration. And it's free. It's this Saturday, 20th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at South Gwinnett High School. That's South Gwinnett High School, which is at 2288 Main Street East, Snellville, Georgia. That's the annual Snellville Juneteenth celebration. It's a free community event. And here we go with our main guy, Mikey Sparkle. Big up Mikey Sparkle. So he does a family fun day every year. And this gentleman is all about family. All about family. And it's this coming Sunday, the 21st. It starts at 12 and it goes on till 9 p.m. This is going to be at the City of Lithonia Amphitheater at 2215 Park Drive, Lithonia. Kids meal, it says there's a kids meal for $5. That's it. There's a bounce house for the children. There are games and prizes and face painting and more, and they have a ball.
Wow.
So there's fun for the whole family. So it's the Mikey Sparkle production this coming Sunday, 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. And our National Caribbean American Heritage Month celebration. This takes place next Saturday, the 27th of June, from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. And this is going to be at 2615 Sullivan Road, Atlanta. SOSIS, I think it's SOSIS, S-O-S-I-S Event Hall. Okay, and that's at 2615 Sullivan Road. Early bird tickets just about ending June 16th. $95. After, it's $100. But it's another bunch of Caribbean folks. And let me tell you, none other than the AJA, the Atlanta Jamaican Association, celebrates their scholarship fund at the Evergreen Hotel, the Lakeside Resort, at 4021 Lakeview Drive in Stone Mountain Park. That's August 8th, so make sure you mark your calendars. Get it. Tickets are going $135 for until June 30th. So you got a little bit to go. But after that, tickets go up, $145. But guess who our keynote speaker will be? None other than Sonia Richards Ross. our girl Sonia Richards Ross. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time, but we've got lots going on and we've got more to do. We've
That
got
is
an
a
amazing
whole lot of stuff
whole
happening.
lot, a whole
ATL
lot.
is not joking. We
ATL
are
does not joke.
okay. We are definitely getting up there with the big ones. Okay, watch
we
out,
are,
Big
we
Apple.
are. You know, we're the third largest population, Jamaican and Caribbean, in the country. So there's New York, Florida,
Yeah.
and the
And
ATL
then
is
the
right
ATL
behind
is
them.
right behind the hills. How about that?
So we've got a lot going on. When people
Yeah.
say they're bored and they don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
you're not really looking.
So the immigrants got it going on.
Wow.
We are keeping with our identity here.
We are. So, Miss Simone, you said culture shock. What does culture shock really look like for immigrants and third culture individuals beyond adjustment? What does that look like? What is culture shock?
Right. So for the research actually says, I'll start there. So according to the United Nations, we have about, as of 2025, 281 million immigrants or international professionals who are living outside of their country. And so culture shock is a big thing in this group, right? And the research says that symptoms range from mild depression to fatal self harm. So get that, fatal self harm. And through my podcast, I've heard about a student from Howard who actually self harmed, fatally self harmed, and other
Man.
stories are out there. So people take this very seriously. So it might feel like at some point you just don't feel like yourself anymore. So the research actually talks about a W curve when somebody leaves a place and moves to a new place. It actually happens for university students when they leave home for the first time and are living on campus. The W curve basically said, the first part of the adjustment results in a high where you're excited to get there, you get there, and everything is new, you're excited, and then it follows by a drop where you're overwhelmed by all the information and of the new environment that you're taking in, right? And that can lead to mild depression where you're like, this place is too hard. I have to constantly be code switching, editing myself. There's so much to learn, particularly for immigrants. This is major, right? It happens like particularly for international students who are away from home on their own with no family
Yes.
in any particular country. And they have to figure out campus life. They have to figure out how are they perhaps going to be making a little money on the side. And then they have to now learn, in some cases, they're learning English for the first time in the case of the United States. If you go to France, you're learning French. For example, there's a Jamaican lady a young lady that I interviewed who got a scholarship to go to South Korea. And she took the first 2 years to learn the Korean language. And then she went on to get a master's degree. And I can't stop talking about her. I'm
Oh,
just
wow.
so impressed.
Wow.
Because can you imagine the pain that she must have gone through decoding that place, learning the language? Then, on top of that, she had to learn the material to get her master's degree. And it's a science master's
Oh,
degree,
wow.
actually. It's not just like, any little easy anything, right, in the arts or anything like that.
Yeah.
She's so
Interesting.
impressive. So culture shock can show up where it gets to the point where you're often very tired.
And probably
There's a lot
feeling
of fatigue.
isolated, huh?
You're feeling isolated because you don't quite know where you fit. You might
Fit
not
in.
be able
Yeah.
to find people from your own community that we call enclaves. If you're able to find, say, somebody from your nationality and you're able to connect, then that kind of eases the adjustment. But if you're in an environment where you're the only one, or you might be disconnected from people who might be in the same city, but you don't know where they are, it can lead to mild depression that shows up in fatigue. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you just feel like you don't feel like yourself anymore. You don't have the energy or drive to keep going. And all you desire is, this place is too hard. I want to go back home. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's where the other part of the W is you perhaps might take a trip home and you're excited again, and you're like, okay, it might not be so bad, and you go back to the new environment, and at first you look at the lay of the land and you figure out, okay, I'm making a few friends here and there, maybe I can give this a try. And so over time you can go on highs and lows as you go through that whole adjustment, cultural disorientation, cultural dissonance of negotiating your accent, how you show up at work or at school, how you dress, what you eat, and the challenges that come along with the constant reminders that perhaps your accent might not be easy to understand, and you need to constantly be editing yourself, code switching, depending on the rooms that you find yourself in.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, like she says, editing yourself,
Editing.
code switching, and you know what I tend to find a lot of people. I mean, that's human nature anyway. You tend to gravitate to what's simpler, what's similar, what seems comfortable, because I mean, when a lot of students, international students, especially when they go to school, they tend to find other international students. That's the first rule of thumb. Find people who you can relate to. The language barrier, the this, the that. You have things in common. So you find people, you sort of migrate, and then let it not be, and I'm just saying there for this sake, but let it not be you walk into Publix or whatever, Walmart or wherever, and you hear Jamaican, you know, you get whiplash almost because you switch around and you go, oh my God, yachty. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So we get excited when we see people who are like us. And a lot of times we have our little identifying things in our cars. I mean, you know, and people see us like, hey, yachty. You know, I had my boxing gloves at one time and a guy drove down beside me and he was blowing. I'm like, what in the world? Did I do something wrong? And he pulled up beside me and he was like, yachty. And I was like, oh God, you scared me. I'm like, you scared me. I'm like, what in the world?
You scared him.
Well,
He was like excited to find someone. But
you know,
yeah. You
Wow.
know, Simone, the psychology is that us as humans, it's a part of our nature to have a sense of belonging.
True.
And so that's where, you know, that feeling distant and maybe, you know, some of the symptoms that you refer to as depression or anxiety. But talking about how would you suggest immigrants advocate for themselves in the workplace, in school, and so forth?
Yes. So that's where the previous question that you asked me before we went to break, and I was just, my mind just like flushed and left me there.
Yeah.
So some of the unspoken rules, and one of the big one when you talk about advocate for yourself is the fact that you have to learn to toot your own horn. My gosh, that has been quite the challenge for me because in collectivist cultures such as Jamaica and in other places in Africa, Asia, you know, you do your work, right? As there, one of my podcast guests said, like in Nigeria, for example, if you know your stuff and you can produce your work in university or in high school, you don't need to say a word. Your work will speak for itself, right? You do your work, you get your high score, and that speaks for you. And so people, you know, if you toot your horn too much and self promote, people think you're arrogant,
Arrogant.
and sometimes you get attacked for like just being too showy and things like that. But in the United States, you better learn to sell yourself and toot your own horn, or you're going to be passed over for promotions. On the university campus, maybe not necessarily as demanding, but when you get into the work world, it is a must. In many cultures, humility is a virtue and your work speaks for itself. But in America, visibility matters, self advocacy matters. All right. People don't automatically know your accomplishments and who you are. And so we have to learn to speak up and to say who we are. To in some spaces, you both are doctors, like, you know, you leading with that to say this is who I am professionally and so forth. And sometimes it gets you into spaces, it gets you into conversations. And so that's something for somebody who's coming from a culture, a collectivist cultural perspective that teaches you about humility and to clothe yourself constantly in humility and let your work speak for itself. It's quite the transition to now learn to constantly speaking about yourself, and it can be very uncomfortable. And it was for me. I had to learn that in the workplace, that if I'm doing the work and nobody knows about it, it doesn't matter. And so
Wow.
you will constantly be overlooked for promotions if you are not, if the people who are important, who are making those decisions, don't know. So learn to sell yourself, and that's a big way of advocating for yourself at work. Networking is another one, right? Like going out to the happy hours after work, maybe a 5 or 6 o'clock happy hour, hanging out with colleagues. There's a book out there that's called The Secret Handshake. And a lot of times that's where a lot of business deals, that's where promotions, that's where people get to know you better. Because when you're at work, a lot of people have on a certain face. And so when you can let down, take that hat off and be more
Yeah.
friendly, and
Yeah.
be in a different environment, perhaps at a happy hour
Yeah.
or at a ball game with your colleagues, that's where they get to know you a little
Yeah.
bit more. And so immigrants are encouraged that a part of the advocacy, self advocacy, is the self promoting, the networking outside of work,
Socializing.
and
Yeah.
So,
socializing. And so, yes.
so Simone, there's a lot to uncover, a lot to unpack here. But what emotional challenges would you say immigrants face that are rarely discussed publicly?
I'm sorry, repeat that for me. What
What
emotional?
emotional challenges would you say that immigrants they do face, okay, that are rarely discussed publicly? I mean, what would you say are some of those emotional challenges that we don't
Okay.
really acknowledge, we don't speak about
Right. So
publicly,
part
that
of
is.
it is, right, holding on to your identity, right? And the crisis that goes on. Like, so you come and you realize that, you have to perform at work. It's a very demanding environment in a place such as the United States, where it's a very individualistic culture. It's about work, work, work. Our lives are built around work, and then community comes second or third. And so it's about holding on to yourself, inside of the fact that you have to give so much of yourself. And sometimes you lose connection with your community, right? And so a lot of times the self erasure, the pressure to assimilate, and the turmoil that goes inside of you to constantly be hiding behind and always code switch and presenting a new face. And a lot of times we don't talk about this. And so that's why my space exists, to hold space for this, some of these emotional experiences that we're going through. The pressure, for example, to continuously support families back home financially while you're trying to hold space for your own life, for example, in the United States. And we all know just how expensive things have gotten. Like real estate in the US has just gone through the roof I would say decade, 5 to 10 years. And I know it's happening in Jamaica as well, right? People say if the United States has a cough, Jamaica, for example,
Has
has the flu or
pneumonia.
something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
real estate values in Jamaica have gone through the roof as well. So, but there's a lot of financial anxiety of sending money home and trying to really to build wealth here in the United States and balancing that. Another one is setting healthy boundaries with family and cultural expectation. So, for example, people might still expect you to continue to send however much money to support a family member or someone in the community. I interviewed someone from Nigeria who said when she was single and in the UK, she would work, say, $600, and maybe about 50% of that went home back to Nigeria
Yep.
to support a family.
Yep.
And the reality of that is that sometimes there's so much manipulation that happens from the other side. She later found out that the people who she was sending all this money to year after year, that supporting someone to go to school, that they ended up were building a second home with all that money she was sending home. So she's here in the US sacrificing, buying non-name brand items, and there people are calling her to say, can you send me an iPhone? Can you buy this certain kind of name brand thing and send it to me? When she's in the UK sacrifices, and she's sacrificing and
Yeah.
not necessarily buying name brand
For
shoes or whatever. And
herself.
we exactly. And we go through that as immigrants as well. We sacrifice when we're in the US because we feel like we we have what we call, what I would say is survivor immigrant guilt. Like, you're in the land of opportunities. Things are not as hard as they are perceived to be in Jamaica. And so there's a lot of challenges
Yeah.
that comes with that.
Yeah.
So setting healthy boundaries, people really struggle with
Yeah.
setting healthy boundaries, learning to say no, I'm sorry, I love you, but I can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And learning to protect your own emotional health, your own emotional space. To say, I'm sorry, I can't be on call for you. I have work tomorrow. There's so much demands on me as a single person, as a married person, for example, having children, raising children in the US. In Jamaica, we would have aunties, cousins, so many people in our
The village.
community to
Extended
help
The
us.
family.
village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extended family in the US, my husband and I, we're the chauffeur, we're the chef, we're the financial advisor. We're
Yeah.
working full time and doing so many things, and we don't
Yeah.
necessarily have that community that envelopes us that we would have had back home. And so there's a lot of need for people to manage setting healthy boundary. So there's
Yeah.
isolation, loneliness, identity
Okay.
confusion,
Yeah.
financial anxiety, and I could go on and on,
Yeah.
ladies, when it
And talking
comes
So
to
about
good.
financial anxiety, there's a terminology you use called immigrant wealth code.
Yes, yes, yes. So that is where I have put together a coaching program and coming up a course to help guide people to decode the US financial system. I have a panelist that's going to be at my upcoming Sip and Share on June 27th. He's only been in the US for 11 months, rather, for 11 months. And he's a pastor, has 37 years of experience in Jamaica being an educator. He's taught at high school. He's a math teacher, very well qualified man, young man, not young man, but gentleman. He and his wife are educators from Jamaica, and we know how well our teachers are trained in Jamaica and how well they're equipped to, yeah, we're all products of that system, and I'm so grateful for it.
Of
So
course.
he
And
said
tell us
he
a little
didn't
bit more
necessarily
about that.
want
When is it
he
going to
didn't
be?
necessarily want to come because he put off his brother applied for him, and he put it off until the last minute when his green card was about to expire, and he made the decision when his wife came. But they went through so many challenges buying their first car, finding they were in an Airbnb for a certain time until they were able to get settled. So it's been a lot of 11 months of challenges. And so learning, and the person that he dealt with at the car dealership, I was like, when we heard the story, I'm kind of like, I wish we could have spoken to you before you
Oh,
bought that car, for example. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of scams and things that
Yeah.
target immigrants because they don't understand the US financial system, and learning how to build your credit score from scratch as you're starting over
That's right.
as a professional, learning how to participate in employee benefits that are available to you at your job, how to participate in the stock market and how to buy stocks, how to put money aside, and most importantly, how to balance sending money home and making sure that you're taking care of yourself here. There's so many stories of people who send money back to build homes. I'm sure you've heard of some of these stories. And they go
absolutely.
home and there's
Absolutely.
no house, or people set up people to either take them out, or they
Oh,
go
yeah.
home and they're sick and they can't enjoy the money they've sent home over the years of sacrificing their bodies, working two,
Yes.
three jobs to send money home to take care of family. And I've heard
Yeah.
of stories of people who've gone home and basically when they are sick just to die because they've sacrificed so much. And so part of my work is to help people balance the clash between cultural expectations and their life here in the United States because there are serious challenges in that.
So,
Okay.
guys, listen, you heard it. The sip and share that Simone talks about It's right there on the screen. It's the immigrant experience. Are you lost in translation? It says this takes place next Saturday, a week from this coming Saturday, June 27th. Doors open at
Yes.
3 p.m., right? It starts at 3:30. Go ahead.
No, just a correction. It's 2 Saturdays out, not this Saturday, but the following, because today's the
Right,
16th.
right, 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 right. That's what I'm saying. Not this coming Saturday, a week from this coming Saturday. So it's going to
Right,
be on the
exactly.
27th, correct?
Yes, the
June 27th. Yes, ma'am. So it's at Hanover Place Clubhouse in Alpharetta. So it's Hanover Place Clubhouse. And is there a number here? I know it's only $30, really, for this experience. It's a sip and share. And, you know, you're going to hear from folks that, I mean, are going to tell you. It's a panel that she's going to have. It's the cultural experience. There's going to be some sips and, you know, sharing information, small group conversation, networking, you know, a beautiful icebreaker she has set up here. She's got the whole 9 yards going on. So it's going to be a dynamic afternoon. So Miss Simone, tell the folks that they've got to go ahead and reach out. Tell them where they can reach you, because we're about to wrap up here and we want them to be able to get their tickets for this event. This is very interesting. The immigrant experience. How could they
So
reach you?
if you've been in the US and find that you've been shrinking, hiding who you really are, that you can't show up as your authentic self, this is a space for you to come and let your hair down and to really shine a light on some of the challenges that you have been having as an immigrant. Because a lot of times when we go to work, let's just be honest, you can't bring your immigrant self in a lot of workplaces. You have to, as I like to say, right? Here we go back to that word, edit, code switch. You have to present a certain part of yourself that is, it's the Americanized version of what is acceptable and safe at work. And so I've created the space for us to come together and really talk about some of the challenges, to learn together, to share together, to shed light on, you know, what are some places in your heart, in your inner self that might be experiencing disorientation, cultural dissonance, that you can learn how to probably navigate that. It's a space for you to network and to meet other people in
And how
different
can they reach
industries.
you?
And
How,
you can
how,
reach, the event is on Eventbrite. So
oh,
there's
it
a
is.
QR
Okay.
code there that's on the screen that you can just scan that QR code. It takes you to the Eventbrite for you to buy tickets. But if you need to reach out to me, my number is 770-524-3686. Or you can go to my website, thebridgeconcepts.org, and it's on the flyer as well as on our YouTube podcast page, The Immigrant Experience in America.
I like that name, the bridge
The Bridge
concept.
Concepts.
Right. So our time is up, but I do want one quick question since you are bringing this panel together. What is one thing that you think that immigrants should not or should stop apologizing for? Quickly.
Stop shrinking. Stop shrinking. My book highlights the fact that you bring a culture and you're a hybrid of your birth country and your adopted country is a superpower. Stop giving up your power in order to be accepted or for people to receive you or to make you find belonging. Embrace who you are. It is a superpower. There are people who are what we call monocultural. They were either born in the US or born in Jamaica or somewhere else. They don't necessarily understand what that world is like for you to be a bridge between two worlds. And so my encouragement to people who are watching and whoever will listen to this, embrace your superpower. You hear people throw this word around lately about what superpower is. Your superpower as an immigrant, as a first gen, third culture person, is the fact that you've been able to live in one culture and you're bionic. You've now adapted and lived in a new world. So embrace that. There is so much
Yes.
value that you bring to the table and you can teach
Abs-
people about it.
Embrace that we are
Absolutely, of course.
bionic
Yes,
and
but I like that.
multicultural has their benefits.
Absolutely. So what's next for
Simone.
Simone? I mean, because I know there's something else. Just give us that one word. What's next for you?
What's next for me?
Yes.
building my empire and having more financial freedom to be with my family.
Absolutely. We
Awesome.
joined that club.
That's
Let us
insane.
know. We joined
Love
that
it.
club.
Yes.
We thank you so much, Simone. It has been very, very educational, interesting, intriguing, and gave us food for thought to think about how those who are just coming to the United States in particular, since that's the reference, but learning the culture, adapting, but not losing yourself within that. So thank you so much for sharing that. And the name of your book one more time is?
Decoding America.
And how can we get that book?
It's on
Yes.
Amazon. Here's a copy
Okay.
for anybody who needs to find it.
All right.
Big America.
Thank you. I'm hoping that translates into many other languages as well. So, Speak Harmony family, it is about that time.
that time.
We are so thankful. We had a great show, and it is time to go. We hope you had a great time, because we did. And we thank Simone Johnson, because I know she had a great time. And also, we give thanks to our sponsors. Once again, APAP Media Group, Mr. P, big up, and Damien, big up. Thank you for producing this particular episode. And so I'm going to get it right this week. See you next Tuesday right here from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Until then, keep speaking harmony into your life. And Sharon, what do they need to remember?
Always remember to like, subscribe, and share. And see you next week. Same time, same place. Thank you for all who joined us online, by the way.
We've got to add that. Beautiful.
They talk about health, they talk about care, sharing tips, they got us without a care. Thank you for listening, you're the best. See you next week to keep the best.